we're good to go.
Thank you. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys joining us today, and we look forward to telling you more about the Oklahoma Group Gap. The title of this little webinar informational meeting is about selling beyond the market in our Oklahoma Group Gap. I first want to start with kind of sharing a little bit of background on why we thought this was important. Well, we did the Oklahoma Local Ag Collaborative did a needs assessment in 2023, and we identified that 75% of our members identified that they could grow more um, if they had a market available. And so we see that the Group Gap is a wonderful opportunity to sell that extra produce or expand your agricultural entrepreneurship in a new way. Still maintaining direct to consumer if you would like, but also just creating a new revenue stream. Another thing that we noticed whenever asking, well, what is limiting your outside of just market availability was also lack of startup capital and lack of agricultural knowledge on how to do it. And so that's where the Oklahoma Local Ag Collaborative partners is partnering with OSU Extension and Taryn with Tullahoma to help create a Oklahoma Group Gap and provide the resources necessary for that update. So let's first talk, what is GAP and why do we care about it? GAP certification helps growers validate their products. It shows that whenever they're selling their products, it is now certified to meet a specific standard of good agriculture practices. This is in regards to the Food and Drug Administration. How do you minimize the risk of food issues and safety hazards? And so you'll hear the minimum microbial food safety hazards. We're trying to reduce exposures and potential risks so that you're selling the safest food to your direct to consumer or to your wholesaler. What is involved with GAP? Taryn's going to go into this much deeper, but an overview is that to be GAP certified, you have to look at all areas of the food production process. This includes before you even lay down a seed, soil testing, water testing, making sure everybody's trained on on what is the produce safety measures that you're taking. A lot of these things that we're going to be talking about are very efficient for your farm. You need to know what your soil, you need to know what's going on with your water, and you want to train people properly so you have the most efficient process. And so a lot of the GAP certification process aligns with business expansion and what agricultural entrepreneurs need for growing their business. And also, you'll need to do some more tracking. You'll honestly, after using GAP, you'll probably have a better understanding of what your input and output is in real numbers. And so making sure you're tracking what you're adding, any soil amendments or any other things like that. Also, when you're looking at your harvest, traceability, equipment inspections, looking at, making sure you're using plastic bins or following any food safety rules on like a hair back or whatnot like that. Packaging and transport, we'll be looking at like containers, washing processes, and transport processes. It's important to note that we're going to guide you through this whole process, and we understand each farm is unique and does their own, has something like their own processes. We don't want to make a one size fits all. We are going to work with you to figure out what works on your farm. So as we talk about the GAP certification, we are talking kind of big picture today, but when we work, we're going to work with you on a one-on-one basis. Taryn is going to go out to your farm. Josh potentially, or Ravi will be going onto your farm and helping you through this whole process. So how does a group GAP work? This is important to kind of know. So we are trying to create a collective of producers who are wanting to grow beyond just direct to consumer. And so right now we actually have a good list of producers, you guys included, of people interested, and we're hoping that we can get some commitment from you guys, and that we can then come together and create a Oklahoma group GAP. And with that, we have Taryn DeWitt has volunteered and did a actual training with USDA to become an internal auditor. And she's going to be helping each farm with developing a quality management system for the products that you want to GAP certify. And then we'll come onto site and help you with everything you need. The goal of, and Taryn will explain this a little bit deeper, and we'll talk about it more through questions and answering, but we are looking to have 16 to 36 producers, and that instead of one farmer having to pay like $3,000, $5,000 for a group for a GAP certification, we share that cost and divide it among all the farms that participate. We also want to make sure you know that as part of a group GAP, you don't automatically get a formal USDA audit every year. There's actual formula, and only a sample of our group will actually get a formal audit, but everybody will be audited by our internal auditor, which will be Taryn. It's also nice to know that there's room for failure. We know that this is a new thing and we're all learning a lot. If a farmer in the group GAP fails their audit, it will not hurt everybody. We will work with them to rectify the necessary things and resolve them, and they'll be able to do a new audit, and then, or if they really continue to fail, we'll ask them to maybe join another year and come back. But it does not hurt if one farmer fails, it does not hurt the group. And so what does a group audit really do? Why is this? What is the market opportunity? I think this is something that is extremely important, and a core to why we want to do this is, again, remember we read that, we have a lot of producers who want to sell more, but they have to have the outlet. We are working with different entities to build relationships and create processes to sell to wholesale distributors, chain restaurants, local grocery stores, chain grocery stores, large school districts, institutions such as hospitals or universities. And we see that there is opportunity for local product to be in these places that typically don't have local product, but we have to meet their standards, and GAP will allow us to meet the standards necessary to sell through these entities. We also see a demand for local food in that the consumers want high quality food. They want to know where it's from, and allowing you guys to have GAP certification opens up a lot of doors. I also think it's important for direct to consumer. Selling at a group certification allows you to set yourself apart, saying that I'm following good agricultural practices. We always say, like, show people the pictures of your farm, make sure they know that you have high quality food. This literally certifies you that you are food safe, you have the highest quality food, you're growing things to the highest standard. And honestly, a lot of the things that are in the GAP, you might already be doing. It's just, let's give you the credit that you deserve. We want to help you throughout this whole process. And so we want to visit your farm. We want to walk you through it. I think it's also important to note you don't have to certify all the products you grow. This is important to note. If you feel like you have an overabundance of watermelons, and that is really, you're like, you know what, I grow squash and I grow okra, but not enough to really sell to a grocery store or sell to an institution. But you know what I can grow a lot of? watermelon. I am great at growing watermelon. I want to just GAP certify watermelon. Then we can create your plan only to certify the watermelon. And the next year, maybe you decide you want to do okra. That's fine. But we want to make sure whatever we GAP certify works for you. You don't have to certify everything. You can pick and choose what works. A great example of this is, say you don't want to build a wash station, right? If you can do like you can just maybe only certify things that don't require a wash station this year. And then next year, from your revenue of the increased income, then you could use that to maybe build a wash station to meet the necessary standards. And then you could GAP certify your lettuce and greens. So we want to be flexible with you and work with you. Also, we will apply templates. You won't be alone on this. I'll let Taryn dive in deeper on this. And then the biggest takeaway is you don't have to be perfect to be in part of the Oklahoma Group GAP. All you have to do is score 80% for every category to pass. That means if you don't want to cover your truck for your transport with your produce in the back end, because that's 5 points right there. If you're not going to be covering your truck bed when you move your produce from your farm to whoever you're selling it to, that's okay. Just take the 5 points off and just now know you're going to have a 95% in that section. That's okay. We don't want you to try to strive for 100% if that doesn't work for your farm. And maybe as years progress, you can change and update that. But our goal is to not be perfect. We want to work with you. We want to make sure this isn't going to cost you a lot. We want it to just fit into your current system as much as possible with minor changes. So we'll through this process, we want to provide you templates where all literally you have to do is put your name in or select like I'm a well water, I'm city water, I do drip irrigation, I spray, sprinkler. What we want to provide you signage or signage templates. We want to even support you through potential upgrades. Like maybe you need to get a better sink for your or transport bins. Let's work with us and we can try to find to see if there's a grant opportunity to pay for that. We also will have OSU is amazing. They're so excited about this. Josh is on the call. He can talk more about that. But they have fact sheets out the kazoos on how to do this in easy to absorb ways. And we want to help you through that. Also, we will be developing training. So, there's obviously there can be some food safety trainings necessary or produce safety trainings that are going to be required. We are going to provide those to you to make it as easy as possible for you to adopt this. And here's an example. We've already created on our Oklahoma Local Ag Collaborative website a resource tab for Group GAP where we have different resources for each of the areas that are part of the audit process. All right, Taryn, you want to take it away?
Yep. Okay, I know most of you, but if you don't know me, I'm Taryn DeWitt. I have spent the last 12 years working in food safety and logistics for a wholesale food distributor, just a traditional sense, and now I'm exclusively focused on local food and helping you all. So the main question is probably you're thinking, is it worth it? Is it worth my time? Is it worth the money? We want this to be a good step into consistent purchasing from bigger buyers. So if you're at a farmer's market, or if you're doing some stuff at a farm stand, it's hot, it rains, it's whatever, and you don't have the opportunity to sell the products that you thought you're going to sell. Being a part of this group, that's the first step of being to have other avenues to sell that product. And we also want you to create relationships, whether you want to work with restaurants or schools or grocery stores. We will help you find those connections. And then that will ensure that as you're growing things, we will work on contracting with them. We'll do whatever we can to make this make sense, where you're being able to sell hundreds of pounds of products within a text message or an email versus your traditional direct to consumer routes. We also understand that this sometimes means that you will be reducing your prices with wholesale pricing. We will go over all of that with you. We'll go over the standards. We'll go over your revenue. We'll go over what that profit means for you. So don't be intimidated as we get into the wholesale side of things. Reducing your prices and seeing having sort of two different price sheets basically. We can walk you through that and make sure it's the right fit. But the biggest thing is we want this to be a group in itself, like-minded farmers that are interested in growing and expanding more, whether that's just a little bit of your excess or you really do want to scale up. This is just an opportunity for us to come together. We can talk about packaging. We can buy cardboard boxes together. We can make sure our sizing is all the same. We can help with logistics. So either that's a traditional standpoint, or if we just find out who your neighbors are and we combine some routes together and okay, I've got X, Y, and Z. They're going to downtown Tulsa on this day. Hey, they're going to Stillwater on this day, and to make all of that stuff easier. And then also, there's an opportunity for us to continue on with the food safety and into the organic certification. Oklahoma offers the cheapest organic certification in the US. We can get that even cheaper. And so if you're slightly interested in that too, that can be an add-on for next year as well. And just so you all understand what we're trying to achieve and the different levels. We're going to start with the USDA GAP. That's the standard. That's the one that's been around the longest, and mostly that's the one that most people are going to ask for. The Harmonize and Harmonize Plus are newer. Those are aligning more with the third-party standards. So if you hear of GFSI or SQF, those are the big auditing bodies. Once you get up to that level, that's because you're selling thousands and thousands of dollars. You are working with a major company that's going to require that level. That won't let you be in a group gap anymore. But the first two, the USDA gap and the USDA harmonized, either one of those, you can be joined in on this audit. And then the separate one is ODAF. So as you scale and as you sell more wholesale, there's a potential for you to be ODAF audited, which is a completely separate thing. But once you're GAP ready, it's no trouble getting ODAF audited either. So the standard GAP audit has these few different segments. And so like what Meredith was saying, each one of these segments, you'll need to get an 80% or higher, which is nice because it does, when we go through the audit together, you'll see where there's some strategy. You can see where you're like, I can get a few points off on this area and it doesn't matter. Or, okay, this one I'm a little more concerned with, so I might have to do some kind of updating. So the general rule is as long as you make an 80% or higher in any given category, whatever you lose points on, you don't need to fix. So if one of them is like what Meredith said about having a covered trailer or having your pack house fully enclosed, if those are 5 points and you score a 95, you don't have to do anything. If you score a 75, for example, then you'd have to do corrective actions, which is saying, so maybe you wouldn't correct the pack house enclosure, you would correct something like paperwork that you lost 5 points off of. So there's a lot of strategy to make this where it is not as expensive as like when you look at it from just reviewing like, oh, I don't have this, I don't have this. We can strategize and say what makes the most sense. And what we were also talking about is if we pinpoint that there's a project that's going to cost you money, there truly is multiple avenues for you to get stuff paid for. So how this is work, I think we have close to around like 30 farmers that have said that they're interested. And so say that out of those 30, 25 of them sign up, or for this example, 16 of them. So we have these 16 farmers. The USDA takes the square root of the number of farmers participating, and that's the number of farms that will be audited. So that's when the USDA auditor will come on site. All of you will turn in paperwork, all of you will be reviewed by me, but the actual audit will only be done by the square root of the number of farmers. So if there are 16 farmers, say in this example, every year 4 farms will get audited and it will switch off every year. So yes, I want you to be food safe every single day of the year, but by joining this group, if you get picked one year to be audited and you pass, then chances are you won't be audited for multiple years after that. This is something that we are creating that we hope it sticks to long term. So the idea is for this to always be an option for you to have affordable audit until you scale up so much that you're selling to like Walmart and they're going to ask for a higher audit. So we have paired up with OSU. All this stuff is already out there. All of these awesome resources are available whether you join Group Gab, whether you're just interested in food safety or not. But what this does is it gives us a wonderful starting point. We will use these templates where it makes sense, and then we will adjust the templates as it makes sense. So we might have 4 or 5 different options for farms depending on what composting you do. Do you have livestock? What are you growing? Are you washing things? Or are you just rinsing things? And so this will help us create stuff quickly, but we also know that each farm is going to be different, and we'll be able to customize for each one of you. And then we've got Ravi, Rodney, and Josh, who are our technical support. So they have been around. They can answer some really technical questions. They can tell you the exact details of how to do things. But I will say, if this seems intimidating to you, if all these PhDs and we're talking about the government and we're talking about these things like that, they're like, I don't really want these like professionals coming on my farm. What I hope to do in the beginning is to give you some comfort, to give you some room to ask questions, because I know a lot of you have been doing this for a while and you probably don't know if everything is perfect, right? And it's okay. Every farm is going to say, hey, I don't know how to test my bleach perfectly. Hey, I've never tested my water fully. All these things are going to happen. And what I want to make sure is you are comfortable asking me those questions. And I will not be giving any information about the goods and the bads of each farm. And if I don't have an answer to the question, I can then go to technical support, ask that question, and they won't know where I got that question from. So I really hope that you can learn to trust everyone involved, but know that there is a buffer. So here's an example of some of the fact sheets that we will be using. It's okay if your eyes blur over seeing things like this, but this is just to show you everything is available, and we will work with each of your farms to plug in the different things as possible. You can see that there's a HACCP training. HACCP is will be for the harmonized gap. So if you have a customer that's requiring a higher audit, you can still join the group gap and you'll be audited at a higher level and you'll go through the HACCP program. If you're going through the standard gap audit, we will put you through the Produce Safety Alliance. I think some of you have already taken that. Meredith, I think Ravi said there's one in November, and we will send that information out. There'll be multiple coming up, but does anyone remember what that date is?
It was November 13th.
November 13th. So it's a full day, it's a full day program. You'll get a really big binder that gives you so much information. It is helpful. It is like you're in school though, but that is a really good first step. It will be required to before we actually complete the audit next year. So if you're available on the 13th, I would sign up for that. Otherwise, there'll be multiple in the springtime. So here are some of the services that OSU already provides in general, but we're going to be focusing on the farm readiness. So myself and OSU will be scheduling time to come on your farm, whatever you're comfortable with, and we will do a pre-assessment. And what I want to make sure that you know is we're going to ask you to commit by October to join this. But if you commit and then I come on your farm and we find out that you have a $15,000 fencing project that's going to restrict you from getting a good score on the audit, we will either do everything we can to find those resources to help you with that, or we say, it's okay, we can just try this again in the future. So we will do all of these assessments before we will ask you to do any kind of financial commitment. And we will also go over the farm readiness on looking at what paperwork that you will need, what programs you will need. If you have employees, if you have volunteers, things like that, we'll make sure that you have all the paperwork ready to go. So yeah, training, that's what I just said. Produce Safety Alliance. We'll send you out information for that. I think the one available is online. Sometimes I do in person. So if you're interested in person, you always can wait for that. We will train you and we will give you PowerPoints or handouts or whatever you prefer to train your employees. So we'll have programs that are for like long-term employees. And then if you just have days where you're able to get a few people just to help with things, we'll have like a one-sheeter for you to hand out to volunteers to make sure that they're being safe. And then you can build on training on top of that. So if there are certain things maybe outside of food safety that you want them to know, you at least started with a template on something like that. Here's an example of some of the paperwork. So here's a good list of what you're going to be expected. And this is just honest. We're going to be able to give you as much stuff we can, but at the end of the day, there's still going to be a small amount of daily, weekly, monthly, annual paperwork. So every day you're gonna initial what you cleaned, right? Every month you're gonna do a self-inspection. You're gonna walk around your farm and you're gonna say things are clean, things didn't break. There's not new wild animals that you found. You're gonna do a water test. You're gonna do a soil test. All this stuff, all this information will be given to you. We'll tell you where to do it, how much it's gonna cost, how often you need to do it, all of those things. But to be honest, you are going to have to spend a little bit of time each week. I told the noon class, you're going to be spending 30 minutes a week on filling out paperwork. And if you have employees, that's going to be even less, right? Just, hey, did you clean the one bathroom that we had? Okay, initial that. Hey, did you rinse off the buckets that we harvest the stuff in? Okay, initial that. That's really what the day-to-day stuff is. And then you'll have your bigger stuff, like you'll be running around turning in a water sample. Maybe it's once a year if you're on city water. Maybe it's more often if you're using surface water, but you'll be given that information. And here's a couple other things. So a visitor log, if you have someone physically helping on your farm, you'll put their name down, you'll put when they are. That way, if there's ever an issue, you can track who's been on your farm. A pre-harvest assessment is something like, hey, my tools are clean, there's no rust on them. Hey, my buckets that I'm putting the products in, those have been sanitized. The bathroom has soap in it, so when I go to the bathroom and I come back and continue to harvest, I have the ability to wash my hands. Like, they're really, really easy things, but it's just a good way to check. All audits are meant to audit really big farms. So if everything seems silly, especially if it's just like you and your family or whoever, you're like, I can't believe I'm having to prove that I'm doing this when I'm the one doing everything. Just pretend you have like 50 employees, and then you can see why stuff like this gets complex. and you can see where stuff would go missing and why the USDA expects things to be tracked a little more.
Hey, Taryn,
Yeah.
I have a question
Yes.
on, can you go back one slide? So you went through quite a few different potential um, issues that could arise. You, so having a procedure to cover all these potential issues is kind of the name of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have templates
Mm-hmm.
like where we can like, oh, hey, you don't have to recreate the wheel for your bathroom signage and hand washing and all that stuff. Like,
Yes. So you will get like a hand washing sign. You will get a employee training, how to train your employees on how to wash their hands, which I know seems silly, but like, we have to prove that we're doing that. And then you'll have a standard operating procedure on how you clean your bathrooms and how you do all that. So all those standard things will be given to you. And that's a good question, Matt. So let's kind of go and explain. So Matt, I will come on your farm. I will have the audit with me. I'll answer the questions. We have like the template, and then I'll say, okay, Matt, what do you do for composting? What is your pack house? Do you have a wash station? And we'll go through that whole thing. And so within the template, I will take your farm and I'll plug in exactly what you're doing. I will turn it into you. You will say, yep, this is right, or oh, hey, this isn't quite what we do, or this isn't what we do year round, or whatever. And then you will basically get the program completely written for you. Your responsibility will be the forms, like the filling out the paperwork. I cleaned the bathroom on this day. I checked. I am putting raw manure on my ground, and I'm making sure I'm waiting the required dates before I plant or harvest. So those are the things that you'll be required, but everything else will basically be given to you. Okay.
okay, thank you.
Okay. So here's our timeline right now. Our goal is by October 31st to get everyone who is interested, get them committed, get them to email us and say we're on board. I will start doing the pre-assessments as soon as you say you're wanting to go. I've already done a couple of them. If you're wanting me to do that before October 31st, just let me know. But what we will do is we'll basically create a to-do list for you. What I just explained, we will see what you're doing on each of those steps, and we will create the system. And then that's when you'll start doing the paperwork. We will do our official internal audits somewhere around April, maybe a little bit earlier, depending on what everyone's doing. This is a group conversation. We're going to talk a lot about what makes sense for the group, what's a timeline that makes sense for the group. And then, so once we think we're about ready, we will email the USDA. We will get those 4 to 6 farms scheduled to get their formal audit. I think it's sort of at random. I think it's just sort of, I don't think there's any, we won't have any voice to say who gets audited on this year. And then we're hoping by the summer, you'll get your certification. Even if you don't have the physical piece of paper that says you're USDA certified, the whole goal of this is to get us audited by the time any kind of school bids come out, because there's a $4 million grant that is coming available, and most of schools that will make a decision on who they're going to buy from in the summertime. And so if we say, hey, we've got these farmers that are being audited, they're going to lean on you more, because most school bids ask about food safety. So this is the whole point of us trying to get it done in this time frame. So if you want to sell to schools, you will be ready to go. Okay. So with that, what are some questions that you all have?
Where's some more information that we can look at for like produce specific GAP certification, like lettuce as opposed to watermelons?
Basically you're just asking for the rules that on those two.
Yeah, like, you said GAP certification for produce specific probably looks a little different. So like I'm assuming for lettuce, it's going to be way different than watermelons.
Yeah.
Where can we find something where it covers like, oh, here's like cert or certification for peppers or for carrots or
So Ravi's the expert on this. Ravi currently is in Thailand. He was at our noon call, but it's like 3 a.m. in Thailand right now. Josh, do you have information? If not, I can kind of go over the basics of it.
I mean, what I would say there is that there are going to be much of it is tailored to the specifics of your operation, but there are going to be uh, certain crops that are going to have to be washed and certain crops that aren't going to have to be washed, and that's really where most things hinge. And then if you say that you're applying animal waste manures, then there's certain list of things that you're going to need to address. And so it's kind of it's kind of a yes, there's some information out there. Ravi would be able to speak better to this. We have some example guidelines in terms of specifications. The USDA has some specs on processes and things specific to certain crops, but some of it is very much also specific to your operation. And so just an example, like watermelons, for instance, you don't have to wash watermelons, but most lettuces are likely to be washed, especially if they're like loose leaf or something. And so then there would be you're basically opening yourself up to all of the requirements associated with a wash station when you have a wash process. Whereas if you were to not have any washed produce, then you're saving yourself the headache and the logistics of having to go through the wash processes.
Right. Yep. And so we will look at each of the items that you are growing or want to grow. And so for example, and so you all know, so something that is washed is something that is dunked, it's in a bubbler, it's in a sink. If you rinse something, so if you're rinsing the dirt off carrots, if you're rinsing the dirt off potatoes or anything like that, that is a different and lower risk than when you dunk something and it's absorbing it. And then like Matt, for example, there are certain items that you would consider if you are dunking, you have to consider the temperature of the water. And so we have different things on the best time to harvest, say, a tomato, if you're going to rinse, which you don't have to, and for whatever reason you like a customer required it, then the tomatoes will absorb a lot more water if there's a temperature range. Like if the water is cold and the tomato is hot, the tomato is going to suck in more water. So there's like rules on that. Something like watermelon and cantaloupe will consider what kind of soil amendments you use. So if you're doing some kind of composting, those items grow on the soil versus something like a pepper or tomato that is growing where it's not touching the ground. So we'll go through each item and make sure that you're doing the right thing on each category.
And I did want to add one more thing. We also want to work with, so say you do grow lettuce and you grow lettuce really well, but your wash station is not there yet. We also are trying to work with entities that maybe have a wash station that could be your middleman, right? So like I know Taryn has talked about how she'll buy whenever she was with Frontier, she would buy lettuces knowing that she'd process them through Frontier, and now they're certified through Frontier on the washing station. And so she bought dirty lettuce. Well, it's not, you know what I mean? And then would wash it in the process. So we are going to work with you. And so if you really don't have the wash station and you don't want to certify it as washed lettuce, you can certify it as just regular lettuce, right? Without being washed. And so there's ways around things that we want to work with you with what you have, what are your business goals, and how can we fit that into that?
okay. Thanks.
And so if what I said sounds complicated, it's because it is, right? And everything is it depends, right? And that's why doing this on your own can get overwhelming. And that's why we want to do this as a group, because each one of you there's going to be overlaps in everything that you do. But there's also going to be different things in everything you do. And so by doing this together will be the most efficient way to get this done. And with that, I just want to say, as we develop this group, not only are we doing stuff with food safety, not only can we help with like logistics, but we will be able to take you as an entity and know what each of you grow and what you want to be selling, and to be able to shop you, right? We will be able to go to bigger buyers and say, look at this awesome group of people that put in this work. They're organized. We have crop production. We have all these cool things, whatever we want to do. And we can really grow to whatever scale you want to as a group.
Taryn, is there a way that you could go back to the last screen so I can
Yeah.
take a picture for the information? Perfect, thank you.
All right. What else? Any technical questions? Any general questions? Any concerns?
I have a quick question. So out at my farm, I have an 8 foot high fence so the deer and stuff can't get inside to get my vegetables, because that was horrible the first year I tried to do it without the fence. I didn't have much of a garden the first year because they kept eating everything. Um, and I do have one up now, but I do have like some holes and stuff that are getting in it, because it's what it is. It's called critter fence. And so it's like a really thick plastic.
Mm-hmm.
So when we've had people go out, to mow and weed eat or whatever, they have cut it. Is that something that you guys can help with, like to get the fencing fixed or anything like that?
That's it. That's a perfect example of like, one, something we can help with, and two, what we will do is we do risk assessment. So you'll get really, really comfortable with a risk assessment. And that's saying, I believe that I have done enough with my current risk to mitigate issues, right? You're trying to reduce deer because you want something to harvest, right? I want you
Yes.
to reduce deer to make sure it's not peeing on everything. And so we're in the same agreement. And what we will do is, if you feel like it's not enough, then we say we fix it. But if you feel like the fence right now is doing enough to prevent it, then we just say that. We say we know it's not perfect, but within our budget, this is working as best as we can. And that honesty with auditors, instead of being like, oh yeah, look at this hole, and it's there, but you're going to pretend it's something new so you can say you'll fix it later, being like, yes, I know this is an issue. Weed eating and things like that have caused this hole, but we haven't had any new issues, and we're going to keep checking on it. And if it becomes a problem, there are avenues for us to fix it. So that's a
Okay.
good example.
All right, great.
What else?
And we will be available beyond, obviously we're here right now and we're going to be here continuously. We want to be a resource. This is something that, like, again, she was saying, this is a collaborative project. We're working together on this. So it's not just like here, you have to follow this rule exactly. We're
This
flexible.
is the first time I've heard like association of like organic certification with the program. Is that because all the required paperwork, documentation, and programs to
Align.
track
Yeah.
to
So
become
basically,
certified? Is you're basically doing it in this?
So
Yes.
basically, once you get good at food safety paperwork, you can be good at organic paperwork. And so it's not something that's required, but it's just gonna, and there's no group organic certification. But the idea is like we already have you. We already are like helping you. Josh can maybe, I don't know if Josh wants to talk about it a little bit more, but there's a really big push to get more organic farmers, particularly in Oklahoma. And so as we are working with you, if that's something that you want to add on, it won't, it'll, again, you'll have all the help. And it will financially make sense more than ever.
And there's a 70, like, so it costs, we have the cheapest organic certification in the nation. And also there are opportunities to cover up to 75% of that cost. And so say you pay $300 for your certification, 75% of that will be reimbursed back to you because they are wanting so much, they're wanting more organic farmers in Oklahoma.
So if you're interested in it, and we could also probably we could get it all paid for. That's not, so if you're interested in the paperwork of it and you're interested in the practice of it, we can get you organic certified.
So,
Excellent.
so this gap stuff will kind of help us with that or the organic part as well. Because I mean, I do everything organic, but I just like really couldn't like afford the organic stamp. You know what I'm saying? I can't, it was just, it's too expensive for me to just, so there is help with that too.
Yes, absolutely. And so what it will do is will help you the same way that we'll be tracing stuff in case you ever have a recall. So say something gets contaminated, and so you're going to be tracking products. You're going to be tracking your soil amendments and things like that. That in turn goes right along with their organic certification. So there's going to be differences, but the same crew that's helping you with food safety will help you along with the organic side.
And I believe Miss
Okay.
Cotton also had something.
Okay, let's hear it.
Hey there. On the 75% refund, do we have to fill that paperwork out ourselves since it's through that FSA program? I have a little congestion, so.
It's through ODAF's the one who organizes it. I can get more information from Justin, but he's the one that has asked for a big push on this. And then Josh had to hop off, but Josh would have that answer too. I think it's really they made it seem like it's really easy, but again,
It is. I've got the form for it, but it seems as if it has to be an individual application.
so
But you are okay.
the organic is individual, and what we will do as a group is like help with the practices and help with like the sharing of the information. And then the group gap for the food safety, that is all shared and that will be applied for as a group.
And that's for the 75% reimbursement.
The organic thing, organic is $300 per year, and then you can apply to get 75% of that back.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think Matt had another question, maybe.
Oh, I think it looks like he might have jumped off.
Okay. Okay, we'll give him a second. Okay, does anybody, let's see, I'm looking to see, anybody else have any questions? Okay, so what we'll be doing is we'll be reaching out and see if you are ready to commit. We're hoping to finalize that number, like Meredith said, by October 31st. If you have any questions in the meantime, let us know. I'm happy to come out to your farm if you have some questions. But like I said, if there's something big that we find out after the fact that is like a make or break situation and you need to back out for the year or something like that, you won't be financially obligated to pay for the audit until we actually have the audit.
Meredith, I know a while back you guys had sent some emails out, and like we could fill out something for that. Do you know if I'm part of that? Because I remember filling something out.
The group gap
Um,
list. You are
yeah.
on the group gap list. Yes, that's why
Okay, I
you've
just
gotten
wanted
all
to
my
make sure
emails.
that I didn't need to do anything else.
Nope. I think
Okay.
we'll probably do some follow-up. So we had about 30 farmers show interest in the group gap. We wanted to kind of make sure who's actually committed of that list. Again, our goal is at least to have 16. More would be better. But yes, you are on the list. So if you're ready
Okay.
to commit, you can say committed.
Committed.
Whatever.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, awesome. I just wanted
And
to
then
make sure.
Miss Cotton is already, honestly, she already had the log sheet and the handout for visitors. We're
Yeah,
already
yeah.
following all the rules.
No, it's good. And if you have farm friends that you think would benefit off of if basically if you know someone that you think would have $300 worth of wholesale produce to sell at some point in the year, I mean the more farmers we get to sign up, the cheaper and cheaper it will be for everybody. We'll probably cap it at 36 because otherwise I think that will get overwhelming until we have maybe someone else trained. But we do have room for more people. So if you have a neighbor or someone else, it is for produce, mushrooms, herbs, microgreens, those kind of things. So no eggs, no meat, no dairy. I don't think they offer something like that. Okay. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah.
This is off subject. What's going on this weekend in Edmond or Oklahoma City, or is there something going on?
Oh, yes. So you're talking about on Friday, Langston University has organized a USDA site visit at 3L Farm. And there's three. They're going, it's crazy. It's crazy, Miss Cotton. They're going to start in Edmond. Or is it Langston or Edmond? I can't remember. And then they're going to go to a farm in Oklahoma City, and they're going to go to a farm in like Shawnee, and then they're going to go all the way to Shakota to see 3L Farm. They're going to 3 farms. It's crazy, but it's a USDA featured program through Langston. Have they sent us a flyer, Deanna or Bailey or Deepa? Do you guys know?
No, I haven't seen anything.
So we can get more information about it and send it your way. I think they literally just planned this last week.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, but I think it's gonna be cool.
And then this is off subject. So I went to Arnetta's farm with the group and got to pick some okra and fun stuff. But we had these like sleeves, right, to like protect our skin. And my 3-year-old won't stop wearing them. He thinks it's the coolest thing ever, and tried to sleep with them last night. So thank you for giving my son a toy that you did not know you're gonna do.
That's sweet. I don't know if they explained it to you all, but because I went in the next day, and actually picked the okra. But we had stopped picking on Monday so that there would be an abundance. I just had no idea it would be that large. There's no way I would have had that many that large had I known, but I did
It's
it on
okay.
purpose. But anyway, yeah,
I know. Okra grows so fast.
so fast. That was faster than I realized. But
It was so beautiful. Your farm was very clean and well done.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank
Audit ready. Definitely.
Yeah, I loved her farm, and I was so upset my husband never told me, Miss Cotton, that
Oh.
you were farmer.
Oh, yeah. And we'll send out our flyer for the 29th, and not just for the grand opening, but also for the field day. We're having a field day on the 29th as well.
Awesome. Yes.
Thank you all.
Wonderful. Yes.